Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Nerd Dad podcast, and a special one. This is another Star Wars Day uh, episode. I've already done one, and so this is a second one. Today, we're going to talk more about Star Wars. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the different um, Star Wars movies and TV shows. I guess more about the TV shows. Um, we all know about all the different movies, though I do want to talk a little bit about those. Um, but not just about those. I'm going to talk about Star Wars in general. Something interesting that I just learned the other day, I guess, in an interview in the last week or so. Um, George Lucas uh, explained for the first time why Yoda talks the way he does. And I found this very interesting because um, we all know Yoda talks differently, kind of jumbles his words up and everything. And I don't know, I just always assumed it was just a quirk of the way he talked, or maybe his race, and never really thought much of it. But apparently, there was at least a little bit of thought behind that. In an interview recently, he explained it, and his explanation actually makes a lot of sense. Um, he said, you know, his thought process behind it was Yoda is kind of the wise old man, the philosopher kind of character in Star Wars, and he needed a way to make sure that everybody, especially kids that were watching the movie, to pay attention. He needed a way to make sure that everybody was going to pay attention to what Yoda had to say because it was important. And there's really it's really hard to get a 12-year-old to listen and pay attention and remember what you're saying because 12-year-olds don't really pay attention to things. If you have kids, you know this. They don't. They just don't listen. So, how do you force everybody, no matter their age, from 5 all the way up to 99, how do you force them to listen and pay attention? Well, you jumble the words. You make things a little bit, you put things a little bit out of order, and you force the brain to have to rearrange it because now it stands out. Now it sticks out, and it worked. Um, if I say things just a little bit out of order, your brain now has to pay attention just a little bit more in order to figure out what it is I'm saying and what I mean. And I kind of like that. I like that there was a little bit of thought behind that. I love that he did that. Um, so yeah, that was kind of cool. Uh, I didn't know that, and it's kind of cool to find that out. So yeah, a lot of people. There's some people that have mixed reviews about whether or not it was a good thing for uh, Lucas to sell Star Wars to Disney. I think it was an excellent thing. Um, there were there was a time that I was very annoyed and disappointed in George Lucas and the way things were going with Star Wars when he started doing the prequels. They did not live up to my ideals and my standards based on the original trilogy. I have since softened my stance on that. Because I also had similar negative feelings toward the special edition of the originals and things like that, the things that he did to change them. And I've softened a bit on that because I've learned more. I've matured and I've learned more and I've gained more information. Um, do I think that the prequels or the sequels, for that matter, are as good as the originals? No, I do not. Do I think they were good? Yes. Do I think that the updates that were made in the special editions were necessary? No. No, I do not. But I have learned why he did them, and I cannot fault the man for doing it. Because here's the thing: when George Lucas first came up with the idea for Star Wars, he had very grand ideas. He had very specific ideas of how he wanted the story to be, how he wanted the story to look. But he was very much limited by the technology of the time. He came up with this idea, and the technology in 1977, when the movie came out, just did not exist. I mean, there's a lot of technology that he created, well, he and his team created for the movies. Movies in general today would not exist the way they do if not for George Lucas and Star Wars. He created so many things for those movies that have gone on to help define how movies are made. But it does not change the fact that he was still limited in what he could do. And so 20 years later, when technology had begun to evolve and catch up to his vision, he saw an opportunity. He saw the chance to go back and remake the movies, not completely, but he saw an opportunity to go back and add elements to the movie that he had always wanted to be there. He had always envisioned having been there, but couldn't do. And I can't fault him for that. I can't, whether it was necessary or not is irrelevant. Whether it enhanced the movie or not is irrelevant. If I have a vision for something that is a pet project of mine, something that I've created in my head, and I have this idea that I just have to get out there. I'm a perfectionist, and I want it to be perfect. And no matter how good it is, no matter how much people love it, I'm gonna look at it and say, oh, yeah, but that's not what I wanted. I'm glad everybody loves it, but it's not as good as it could have been. It could have been so much better because it could have been what it is in here. And so, if all of a sudden 20 years later, I have the ability to make this equal this, why wouldn't I? You know? So I get it. So I have no issues there. Again, do I think it was necessary? No. Can I fault him for it? No, I can't. Um, I I enjoy the originals. I enjoy the special editions, and I enjoy all of the movies. I really do. I think that the sequel trilogy gets a lot of hate that is unnecessary. Um, I do. I think I think some of that hatred is people that just can't handle the idea of female characters being female characters. I, it is what it is. There are a lot of people out there, especially in nerd culture, that unfortunately just can't handle female leads. Because I saw the same thing in, I've seen the same thing in the MCU, in Marvel movies. Captain Marvel, I thought was an excellent movie, and The Marvels, I thought was an excellent movie. But Brie Larson has gotten so much hate, and those movies basically tanked. The only reason they tanked is because a bunch of nerds and right wing nut jobs can't handle the idea of a strong female lead that won't take crap from people. Because that's what it comes down to. Brie Larson is a good actor and a strong female lead that isn't willing to take crap from a bunch of men. And a bunch of men don't like that. And so they tanked the movie. And I think that's unfortunate because I thought the movie was great. And that's what that's how that's what I think is happening with the sequel trilogy. Yes, there were some storyline issues, I guess. Um, and I am not a huge fan of how I'm not. I don't love how some of the story played out, but I got more Star Wars movies, and I'm happy. Like it just comes down to that, and I think that if you can't just bring yourself to be happy about that and enjoy Star Wars, then you're just you're just being a negative person for the sake of being a negative person. But that's just that. So, anyways, yes, I think it was a good move to sell to Disney because it's allowed us to get those sequel movies. It's allowed us to get all of these Star Wars TV shows. And Jon Favreau, who is just an amazing man, can do no wrong. I love everything that man has touched. Um, he did, let's see, I believe he's responsible for The Mandalorian. Yeah, let's see, Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, I think he did, right? Yeah. Okay. Is he responsible for Obi-Wan? No, he's not. Okay. But that was awesome. That was excellent also. But yeah, The Mandalorian and then Book of Boba Fett were just absolutely glorious. Nothing bad to say about either of those two. Um, Obi Wan Kenobi was fantastic. Um, Andor, I haven't seen the second season yet, but the first season was amazing. Loved it. Can't wait to watch the new season. Just came out a couple days ago, I think. I've been kind of busy doing stuff. I haven't had a chance to watch the new season, anything of the new season yet. Oscar, Dave Filoni. I like most of what he's done. He's responsible for that, and I mean Rosario Dawson. She can do no wrong. I love everything about her. So yeah, love that show. Ahsoka, sorry. Yeah, so that's excellent. Hope we're gonna get more of that. Um, I have not seen because I am woefully behind on stuff. I have not seen The Acolyte or Skeleton Crew. I've heard good things, but I've not seen them. Um, I hope to get a chance to see some of that stuff soon, but I've heard good things. That being said, I don't watch the animated stuff. I just don't. Um, so far, and please correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. So far, from what I've seen, from what I've noticed, all of the animated stuff appears to be the same animation style, and it I just don't like it. I don't like that style of animation. It is not my cup of tea. And I have a hard time watching it. I'm sure the stories are great. I'm sure they are. I'm sure that it's fun to watch, but I don't like that style of animation. And it's just too distracting for me. I'm more of an anime kind of guy. Um, so like Japanese anime kind of style, and I would rather it be done in that style. But that's just my opinion. That's my preference, and I don't see that happening. So I'm probably just not gonna watch. And there's a lot of stuff out there. Let's see, we got looks like there was a show called Droids back in 1985 and 86. That's probably not the same kind of animation style because Droids and Ewoks, that's probably old school like cartoons. Actually, I think I've seen Ewoks. It's been a while, obviously, because that was 85, 86, but I think I've seen some of that. The Clone Wars has 7 seasons. Rebels has 4. And there's Resistance with 2 seasons. The Bad Batch has 3. Visions has 2 seasons. Tales has 2. Young Jedi Adventures has 2. These are all fairly recent stuff. Resistance looks like it was from 2018 to 2020. Rebels was 2014 to 2018. Clone Wars was 2008 to 2020. But Visions, Tales, and Young Jedi Adventures are all currently still going. Uh, Visions started in 2021, Tales 22, and Young Jedi Adventures 23, and they're all still going. Then we've got, let's see, Clone Wars, which is somehow different than The Clone Wars, has 3 seasons and went from 2003 to 2005. Blips, 1 season in 2017. Forces of Destiny had 2 seasons in 2017 and 18. Galaxy of Adventures, 2 seasons from 18 to 20. Rollout was 1 season in 2019 and 20. Galaxy of Creatures, 21 to 23. That's 2 seasons. Galaxy Pals in 2022. Zen, Grogu, and Dust Bunnies. It's a short. And then Fun with Nubs is a new one. Started last year and it's still going. That's on StarWarsKids.com. But yeah, so again, I don't do the animated stuff. Again, I will watch anything Jon Favreau does if it's not, as long as it's not animated. But I don't think he's done any of the animated stuff. Uh, Dave Filoni, I'm a big fan of his. I'm a decent fan of his, so I'll watch any of his stuff. I don't have an issue with anything else. Again, a lot of hate for the Last Jedi from Rian Johnson. I I didn't have an issue with it. I really didn't. J.J. Abrams did the Force Awakens and the Rise of Skywalker. There's some hate there too. I don't see an issue. I think the biggest issue there is that they changed directors, writers, etc. in the middle of the trilogy. That was a dumb move. I don't remember why. That was kind of stupid. They should have had whoever it was going to be, whether J.J. Abrams or whatever, they should have had them sign on for all three movies right from the get go and not changed. Because, yeah, it was the director. Okay. Because they had director and screenplay. And story. Okay. Yeah, they had the production. They had the same person producing in all three of them. They had Kathleen Kennedy producing all three of them. But then, of course, they had J.J. Abrams producing the first and the third. And then two other people added in there for the first and third, and a completely different person on the middle one. They had different writers and directors, or different writers and screenplay writers on all of them. So that was just really stupid. They should have just had the same person sign on to do all of it. And I think that's the biggest issue they have is they should have they they should have just done that from the beginning. But I think having it in Disney has given us a lot of good content and is continuing to give us good content. We're getting more movies and more TV shows. We're getting another. We're getting a Mandalorian and Grogu movie, supposedly. That'll be interesting because the show has been amazing. I can't wait for more. Um, I'm very much looking forward to that. But yeah, that's my take on all of that. Again, I think there's been a lot of hate thrown around on stuff that doesn't really deserve it. I think people need to just allow themselves to enjoy the fact that we're getting Star Wars that we never thought we were going to get. Because honestly, until until the late '90s, we thought the original three was all we were ever going to get. Then we got the prequel trilogy, which, again, let's be honest, a lot of us did not like at first. And then George Lucas made it very clear that was it. We were never getting any more until he then sold the rights to Disney. And then now we're getting not just now we got not only the sequel trilogies, but now we're getting more movies and more TV shows constantly. And as a Star Wars fan, that's a good thing. So quit complaining and just be happy that we're getting more Star Wars because we could be stuck in the pre Disney era where Star Wars is just over. And I'm happy. So happy Star Wars Day. Um, Tell me what you think in the comments. Are you happy that Disney has the rights? Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think that the movies, the prequels or the sequels were bad? Do you think that uh, we should have stuck with just the originals? Let me know in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe, and let me know.